Hey, hey, I know the lighting is absolutely horrid in here. Don't know what it is, but there's a lot to have on right now, alright? Deal with it. So, I can't lie, I'm a little mad at the moment, still reeling because it's right after it. But I do want to come on here and make a message, not only for myself, but for others. Before I get into that, though, I do want to talk about a couple things. How I plan to take this channel real quick. I do plan to take this channel in a way that is less trying to get big, because I no longer care about that anymore. Especially on this channel, it doesn't really matter. On my other channel, I'm trying to at least hit 500 subs, so I'm going hard on that because I'm close. But with this channel, I'm not trying to do all that. What I'm trying to do is give inspirational messages, unhinged rants, all the different stuff, as well as I want to start doing acting stuff. So sometimes my videos will be skits, sometimes it'll just be me acting as a character, reading out voice lines, reading out stuff that, maybe like, like monologue type stuff. That's what I'll be doing. It's basically just a platform for me to practice my acting and get better at it, as well as, because of my personal channel, I might also do practicing stuff of like Korean over here, practicing my Korean and stuff. It's really just kind of like a whatever type of thing I can do on this channel, and that's what I want to do. I want to do whatever I want on this channel, and that's actually how this channel started. It started as, oh, the personal channel. I can do whatever I want over there. That was literally how the channel started. When the day I made my first video, back in, what was it at this point, 2017 maybe, 18, one of those. The time I made my first video on this channel, it might even be 2016, funny enough, because that's around when I started making YouTube videos, 2015, 2016. So yeah, it's been a long time, and during that time, when I first started the channel, it was like I was making memes on my other channel, or I was stealing them basically. I said, oh, this channel will be the personal channel where I said that far back, before actually even doing them, years later, I said, oh, I'll do like rants and, different stuff, talking videos, different stuff, just random whatever I feel like type of stuff. I think I said in that. It might still be up on my channel, but either way, I said that, right? And basically, that's why I'm staying, doing whatever I want on the channel. But I want to say a message here, because this is another message video. This isn't one of those new videos where I'm acting or something. This also falls into the line of most videos on this channel that are public at the moment. And it is a video talking mainly about, I couldn't record. I would have recorded this maybe like an hour ago, but I couldn't find the time or the place because it was very loud. It was very loud. I had this time before. One time I was trying to like record a video or something. Or was it a stream? It might have just been a recording on my gaming channel. It was months ago, probably, maybe even a year ago. And there's like a party going on, and I wasn't hanging out in the party because there was a lot of, drinking and all this different stuff. This isn't really a spoiler to anything or anything personal you gain from this. This is literally just like most people's experience. This is very common. But yeah, there's like, imagine this, there's a party going on. Whatever the party is, it doesn't matter. But either way, there's a lot of drinking going on. I'm not engaging with it on purpose because of the vibes that it gives. It's a very demonic vibe to be around. Same thing with smoking, especially weed smokers and any other drugs that are very psychedelic and all the different type of stuff. I'm not saying like weed is super, like ultra psychedelic. I don't even know anything about that. Don't ask me. Don't care. I really don't care. All I'm saying is, at the end of the day, well, actually, I don't care. All I'm saying is those type of drugs, they're all demonic. So I don't even mess with them. Don't get close to them. The only thing I feel like I mess with that I probably shouldn't be messing with it, to be completely honest. The things that I mess with are sugar and, hear me out, caffeine, which I probably should not even be messing with those either, because those can be kind of volatile. I wouldn't say they're bad as those other ones, but you know what I mean? Still ain't great, you know what I mean? I'm not even saying that to judge anyone, but at the end of the day, here's what I want to say. I don't know where I was exactly going with that, because I honestly lost my train of thought, but as I often do. But here's the thing. Here's what I want to get out of this, because I have no idea what I was talking about right there. Maybe you got the point, maybe I just didn't get to it, because I like to go roundabout in my way of explaining things. I usually have it in my mind, and then if I don't explain it well, I lost my train of thought. That means it's gone now. So basically, I don't know, I got it now. It came back. So like I said, there's a party vibe, people doing their stuff. And I had this thing before where it's like, oh, the music's loud and you could hear it, right? And you could hear someone in that video, but funnily enough, you couldn't hear it that crazily. And it's happened many times where I'm just trying to do stuff and everyone's trying to be loud. And it's always the exact time that I don't want to do that. And then the same day today, not only did that happen, I wanted to literally stream. So I wanted to stream on my main channel like 3 or 4 hours ago. But no, something gets in the way of the sound. Actually, funnily enough, this is a perfect way to talk about it right now. Literally right now, this happens pretty often. Of course, this is a little bit personal, but like, this is another thing. You know, the dogs will bark. They'll make sounds. You know, dogs will be around even if it's outside. They'll bark, make sounds. Sometimes the ambulance will go by. The ambulance will make sounds. For content creators, when you're around lots of sounds, it can be kind of annoying. Like, I remember I watch a lot of like ASMR YouTubers. They'll say, I have not recorded an ASMR video in months because it's so loud around me. I'm in the big city. There's so many sounds around me that I can never find a time to record. And I've heard others that say, "Oh, my family's always loud. I can never record my ASMR videos." I've heard that for other types of videos, but mostly those in particular. I've heard it for other people. I've heard some gaming channels used to watch, or do watch, for them to say stuff like, you know, I can't record. You know, it was loud. I was trying to record when it was time to, but stuff got in the way or whatever it is, right? But yeah, basically what I'm trying to say is the stuff I was saying isn't too personal. It's not really. These are just common experiences. What, a dog barking, you know, whatever. I'm just saying it for like, part of me was concerned that, you know, you'd get something from this that was kind of personal, but really it's just a dog barking and people being loud in the house. Like, that's literally it, bro. And I said something about smoking, which could also be said, oh, you're hating on smoking people who are smoking. But I don't even know why I mentioned that. It probably, oh no, it was in relation to me talking about the specific vibes that were there in that current time and why I didn't go down and hang out with people because I'm upstairs. I don't think that's too much information, to be honest, but I mean, take it which way you will, I guess. Kind of just explaining my perspective, right? So, point being, same thing happened. But also, before that, I literally had something that I had to do that was like scheduled. It was supposed to happen at a certain time. Of course, I'm not gonna go in depth right now. Like, that was not something I'll go like semi in depth, but this one I'm not gonna go in depth. Basically, I was gonna schedule to do this thing, and it didn't end up happening because whatever reason. I'm not gonna tell you the reason either because I don't really care to, and I don't want to. So either way, something got in the way of that too today, and yesterday something also got in the way of me streaming as well. That made me stream later. It's not even that it just gets in the way of streaming. It gets in the way of every type of content creation. It got in the way of this literal video you're watching. I was about to record this video even hours ago, bro. The walls are thin. In fact, you can probably hear them right now. It has not let up. So my first message would be, if you're in a quiet, or you're in an environment like those YouTubers I said, or the ASMR people I said, or people in the background who are always making sounds or always loud and the walls are thin and you gotta kind of talk quiet like I am right now, because you know that when you're loud and you're literally, you know, like super loud and, you know, they can hear you, you can hear them, but you're just trying to say your message without them actively hearing you right now. That's literally what's happening right now. And it's literally going exactly into the point I'm making. You could tell that I'm not happy about that. But here's why I get to the main point of this video. Because obviously I'm not happy about that. Let's get that out of the way. I don't like that as a thing, right? Because I'm trying to either make a video or be a content creator in general. Let's say I was trying to like record, you know, and try to voice act or something. That also works for that because it's loud. And right now I'm accepting it because this video isn't meant to be really watched or anything, because that's just how it is. That's why I'm doing this. But when I'm streaming and I have to mute the mic for elongated periods of time, that cuts out on the quality of the content. I'm not saying this is like this every day either, but on those times when it is, it's like it does kind of eat at me sometimes, you know. Sometimes I do like think, you know, someone's gonna be loud one of these times because the walls are thin, right? The walls are thin. But here's why I'm getting to something here, and I think this is very important. And I think it's perfect that I'm doing this as it continues to be loud. I think it's important that I talk about this. So, what I want to say is, I'm going to get closer since I'm talking low now. So, what I want to say here is, what we need to understand is Ecclesiastes. There's a time and a place for everything. There's a time for happiness, sadness, pain. There's not even a time. And what I mean is, what I'm interpreting it as is there's going to be times when things will happen. I've referenced this before, when certain things happen. For example, persecution. And that even lines up with other verses in the Bible about persecution. We are going to be persecuted, right? They're going to hear our words and hate it. The demons will hate it, right? The workers of darkness will hate it, right? So that is something that we have to understand first off. Second, there will be trouble. It's a battle, isn't it? So there will be trouble. That's another thing. There will be trouble. And it's to be expected. Can you expect any different? It makes sense. There will be trouble. And another thing, there will be inner turmoil. There'll be decisions you have to make. Inner turmoil in the case that there will be times when you don't know what to do. There will be those times. There's going to be times when you make mistakes. There's going to be times when you feel sad, when you feel hurt. There's going to be times when you feel guilty. There's going to be times when you feel great, happy. There's going to be times when you feel elated, excited. There's going to be times for everything. There's a time and a place for everything. And there's always going to be a time and a place for everything within this life. So there's a time and a place. Here's the thing. With that, when you realize that, you can come to terms and say, you know what? Sometimes there's going to be not even just days, hours, minutes. I'm talking about it can be weeks, months, years at a time where there is a certain time, like there's a certain vibe about it. Maybe you're in a tough place for like 5 years, but that was just how long that time was for this exact thing that's happening right now. This is a time and a place for everything. And for this time right now, that is what's happening. So that's what you have to come to terms with and understand. There's a time and place for everything, And then when we get to the question of, okay, I get your time and a place for everything. So what happens when I don't get what I want? It's something I talked about in previous videos. What happens when I do not get what I want? Okay, you don't get what you want. When you do not get what you want, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to cry? You going to bawl your eyes out? You going to rage at the world? What can you actually do about the situation? Nothing. It's already happened and transpired as it has already transpired. You're not going to go back in time. So what are you going to do? That thing that you didn't want to happen happens. What are you going to do? There's only really one answer that works. You're going to move on. You're going to keep pushing. You're going to keep moving. You're going to understand and be content either way. You could literally have a gun to your head and get it shot out. Or you can be handed roses by the very same person. The difference is whether you're given flowers and a hug or you're getting a gun to your absolute, straight to your dome and shot. The difference is very minimal on your reaction part. The difference is, when I was talking, I'm telling you, man, distractions, bro. Distractions. The enemy's trying to distract me from getting the message out, bro, right now. All I'm saying, bro. He's even messing my message up, too. So what I was trying to say was, the difference is actually going to be in your actions. See what I meant by that? I said the wrong thing. The difference is going to be in how you act, how you react. It's going to be whether he did one or the other. Those are one and the same. The difference is, of course, compared to how you're supposed to react. Like that, no matter what they do, it doesn't matter what they're doing. You should always matters what your reaction is for you. What they're doing, of course, that's something for them to decide and work through, and whatever that happens there, that's something they're gonna have to deal with the consequences. But for you have to decide how you're going to react to what they give you, because they could give you flowers and you slap it out their hands, right? So even when they do something good, you could still give them something bad back. They could put a gun to your head and you thank them for that. Pretty odd, but the thing is, that would be if you had a suicidal tendency, you could very well do that. This is the thing. You can react in any way you want, but you have to choose the right reaction, because that is the way you can really move on. You can have the best, really have a grasp on your life. A grasp on connecting, grabbing on to life. That's how. So you can notice by how loud it is. You see what I mean? So here's what I'm saying. By the way, that's why I'm not live streaming right now, is because it's still loud. And I'm just waiting for it not to be. So I'm going to have to stream very, very late or not at all. Kind of just how it has to be. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter whether I stream or not. It doesn't matter the action that I'm doing. It's like it doesn't matter whether he puts a gun to my head or he gives me a rose. It doesn't matter the action there. Of course, the action, that's happening, that the other person is doing to me, this is not that's not the case. These are circumstances, circumstantial, whatever, this is that. What is my reaction? What is my action after what the first action happened? After he has put the gun to my head, what is my reaction? Am I going to cry? Or am I going to say, you know what? The gun is to my head. I'm about to die. He will get what's coming to him. I'm not going to curse him. I will pray in that moment that he repents from his ways and he changes from his ways. That's what I would repent and say. That's what I would say. If I had any ill actions, if I had anything I did wrong to that point, I would repent for them right in that moment. And it doesn't even have to be a thing where I say it, all of them out loud, listing them. It's not like I have time for that. I would just think it, right? Right in that moment. Thank God, right in that moment. There's nothing else I would do. I wouldn't curse my perpetrator. I wouldn't do anything. And I think that's the correct way to do it. Now, maybe I wouldn't do that. I haven't found myself in that situation. But that's what I want to do. If someone gives me roses, what I want to do, accept it with gratitude. I want to slap it out their hand and say, oh, that's stupid. I want to accept it with gratitude. That's what I want to do. That's the only correct reaction there. Accept with gratitude. If they ask me to pay for it, maybe I ain't paying for it though. But no thank you. Now, you actually could also say no thank you. That is actually an option. But you just wouldn't hand it out of their hands. It's really just how your tonnage, how you talk to them, all that different stuff. Here's what I'm trying to get at to all this random swervy thing. It's hard to think. You could probably understand. But here's the thing. You have to understand that things aren't always going to go your way. There's going to be times when it feels hectic. You know what I mean? It feels hectic. It feels like things are just going out of control. You feel sad, depressed. You feel guilty. There's times when you feel guilty and that eats at you. Your anxiety's out of control. You're worried about the future. We could add on all this. You feel malice towards some people or multiple people. You feel hatred towards yourself. Maybe you feel hatred towards God. You feel a lot of these evil, bad things, right? But all I want to say is, when you come to the end of yourself and you realize that it's just not worth it anymore, and you realize what is worth it, you realize what love you can have, you realize the beauty of loving your enemy, of, turning the other cheek. You realize the beauty of that. You realize the sacrifice that you have to make. You think about what Jesus did. He made sacrifices, but you're not willing to sacrifice, even though he saved you. You're not willing to sacrifice yourself. You're not sacrificing your life. He says you have to sacrifice your life. It doesn't necessarily mean literally. We're talking about the old you. You need to put yourself on the cross as well. That's what you're told to do. And if you're not ready for that, which a lot of us aren't, then you better get ready. That's what I'll tell you. And this isn't like a warning or some type of pointing finger. Y'all, you better. All I'm saying is I'm trying to help. I'm trying to help with this. Not only help myself, but help you. I think a lot of us have this. Where we have situations where stuff is just going awry. And it will continue to. In the future, it will continue to. Stuff is going to happen. When you get older, your leg's going to break down. Right? Your knee's gonna go out. You know what I mean? You get to a point where your money's running out. You know what I'm saying? Your eyesight's going. People are leaving you. This one person that you thought trusted you backstabs you. This type of stuff just happens, right? Like right now, my wrist hurts. It hurts a lot. It hurts a lot. And that's just gonna happen. These things are going to happen. But what do you do when it happens? Do you adapt? Do you move like water, adapt to the situation and do what you gotta do? Or do you sit there and wallow in pain and misery, tell yourself that you're worthless, that you're weird, that you're the one who's the absolute, you're the one who's in like horribly, not just in the wrong, but you're a horrible, disgusting rodent that literally deserves to die right now. You could tell yourself these things all you want. Doesn't make them true. And you will be tempted to tell yourself that. It's like, well, what? I can't even, the guilt comes in. I can't even do stuff right. You know? I can't even do stuff right. I can't do anything right. I feel horrible. I feel like I'm just a failure. And this happens all the time with a lot of people, to me especially. And the thing is, when there's a time for everything, and sometimes, for example, that situation I said about there being drinking and loudness, what did I do in that time? I think I handled it better back then. What I did was, I waited, I stayed patient, and what I did was, I did what I had to do. Funnily enough, I actually ended up recording anyways. I think I might have been recording, was it Yakuza? It might have been the Yakuza. It might have been Yakuza 5, which I never actually made into a full series, but it might have been that I was recording. But I was recording something, and I believe that's what I was recording. Maybe I'm wrong, but either way, I was recording something. It might have been Elden Ring. No, Elden Ring, I don't think it was. Either way. I think it was like 2 years ago, or like last year. It might have been last year. Not Elden Ring, I'm talking about the Yakuza. But either way, point is that I was recording that, and yeah, that's how I dealt with it, right? And I feel like I got complacent lately. I got complacent. I was too used to a pattern. You know, you get too used to a pattern. A pattern, I can stream at this time. This is the time I'm able to stream. I can do this thing at this time. This is the time I'm able to do this. Nothing gets in the way. And when you're used to a pattern, when it gets broken, and it can get broken at any time when you least expect it. You know what I'm saying? If it gets broken, we're not going to say, like, oh, well, that was, it's broken because, there's a ploy against you. Or I'm not talking about all that. I'm talking about is when it is, regardless of who's behind it. What I'm talking about I'm talking about when it happens. Whether it's a trial or it's an attack from the enemy, no matter what. At the end of the day, when it happens, you have to understand, wait a second. This is unexpected, but I must stay vigilant. I must stay vigilant. What's the next thing? Think of my feet. I must stay vigilant. Because once we stop staying vigilant, we stop being courageous, we stop, being patient even. You can be courageous and patient. We stop being patient. We stop waiting on what God has to say. What's next? When we stop waiting on that, when we start trying to rush and do everything, when we stop being content and peaceful, we end up falling deeper and deeper into darkness. You start spiraling out of control. You start finding yourself in the weirdest place of mind. You start hating everything around you. This is what the enemy wants. The enemy wants you to have a circumstance. There's the only way he can really work through to get to you is through your circumstances and your emotions. So that goes into your circumstances as in what's happening to you, meaning he can affect the world around you, as in influences on people, and that usually can impact your outcome of your environment. That's his, or just in general, just your situation, and your emotions, meaning he's trying to use these things to affect your emotions, right? He's trying to use these situational stuff to affect you through your emotions. Think about what the media tells you. Think about what everyone is saying. These things are literally spiritual in essence. What people are saying, speaking into the world. When we speak, you can speak things into existence. What you speak is powerful. Your words are powerful. I'm not saying some weird like manifest thing. Okay, don't get me twisted. I'm not talking about when you speak, things appear. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying when you speak, now you've just created a whirlpool. No, I'm not talking about something like that. All right. All I'm talking about is that your words have power, and I'm not even talking about like you have superpower. I'm talking about literally they have power. What you say matters. What I say right now matters. When someone that you trust says something, especially, it matters. What you say matters, bro. And I want you to realize that. So when the evil one speaks, it matters. But I want to let you know this as well. Even when the evil speaks into your situation, when evil speaks into your situation with pain, with worry, with anxiety, when it comes in like that, with guilt, with despair. When the enemy comes in and tries to instill this in through your situations and your emotions, which are volatile. Your emotions are volatile. I've experienced this. You'll feel emotions, and like I said about being angry earlier, emotions will come up, and a lot of times you're not going to be able to control them immediately. You need to take yourself away from being so connected to that emotion that emotion is everything. It's just an emotion. Let it do its thing. Move on. You know what you have to do. This is called a knowledge thing. You know what is the truth. Your emotions will tell you differently. Okay? You know what the word says about not having anxiety, about anxiety not being the way around things. Those are not the ways to solve your problems. Is with anxiety. You need to not worry, right? These are things that are not even talking about emotions. I'm talking about what you know. It's talking about your mind. You're coming into agreement. I will not worry about the future. Why? Because of the promises that were made by God to man. And it was specifically made to believers even. That is a knowledge thing. That's you knowing. Trusting, knowing. That has nothing to do with emotions. Faith is not an emotion. It's not. Faith is a trust. You're coming into agreement. So we're not relying on these. This is what the evil one, the enemy, relies on. Evil ones even. This is what the enemy relies on, is your emotions. Your emotions, your emotions, your emotions. Not only that, why? Because your emotions are so volatile that not even you can sometimes control them. Often even. A lot of times we don't even have a clue how to control them. And even then, even if we try to, there's tons of times where we just can't. That doesn't mean that we're not controlling our actions. I'm just saying that the chemicals in our brain. I'm talking about those. The wirings, everything. The neurons activating. You can't get, when you get pain, when someone pricks you on your skin, you get a bee comes in and goes, stings you. You're not controlling the pain. It's going to be there whether you like it or not. The same thing happens with those flooding of emotions. You're not going to control when it happens. Someone punches you in the face. You're not going to control whether those emotions are flowing in, but you can control what your action is after the fact. I'll say it again. You cannot control those crazy surges of emotions that come in all at once, especially if it's very intense emotions. But you can control what you do after the fact. You can control how you act. And that is the difference between the emotions and your actual knowledge, what you choose to do. You're not defined by your emotions. You're not defined by them. But this is what the enemy will use. One of the top things, and almost, I'd go to say number one, is your emotions. And number two, and this is literally just from not only experience, but also stuff I've heard from other believers, and as well as there are some stuff that backs up in the Bible. Not that I have the verses off top. I'm very sorry about that. If you don't want to take what I'm saying, that's fine. But all I'm saying is this lines up, especially with, I guess I'll have one quote, which is, the heart is deceitful above all things. I believe it's, I don't know the verse, but I think it's, who can know it? You know what I mean? What is the verse? If I can say some of it, paraphrase. Heart is deceitful above all things, who can know it? Something like that. Something like that. Basically saying the heart is deceitful, who can know it, type of thing. And then God searches the heart, and something like that. I don't know the exact verse. I'm sorry. So take it with a grain of salt if you want to. Of course, take anything I say with a grain of salt, because I'm just but a man, But that's what I'm trying to say, is the emotions is very obviously what is a big thing that the enemy wants to grab hold of, is on your emotions. If you can control not only your emotions, but how you react to it, because that's his way in, your emotions. And another way is there's a bunch of ways, but one of the other ones, big ones, is your circumstances. So he'll say, look at the circumstance, you don't have a lot of money. Now worry about that. That's one of the ways he'll get into your emotions, through your circumstance, because he wants to get into your emotions, because him getting into your emotions leads him to getting into your heart, which is the one thing he wants. It's the one thing the enemy wants. So you don't want that. forget about trying to rely solely on emotions, especially for faith. I don't rely not a bit on emotions for my faith. It can be a thing that adds on to it afterwards, but I do not rely on it not one bit. People have asked me, and people have asked other believers too, like emotions, right? Like, what about the emotions? And what I've said, usually to the question, or even just in general, I've heard a lot of other people say that I agree with, and I say too, is I don't base my faith off of emotions. I base it off of trust and knowledge. I base it off of things that I can literally. See it to believe it. Yeah. Well, what about the 500 people that saw Jesus risen from the dead? What about that? That's seeing and believing right there. Oh, but I gotta see it. Oh, so what about those old people, like literally everyone in history that you've literally never met, but were seen by tons of people? I don't even know how many. Sometimes millions. Or some people were only seen by just a few handful of people, but we're like, oh, well, because we all agree. And we all agree because there's literal, there's evidence. There's evidence everywhere, right in front of your eyes. There's archaeological, there's, clothes, and there's, where the tomb was. There's tons of evidence of Jesus and even tons of other historical figures existing. So we can't go say, oh, they didn't exist. Well, I can go ahead and say, people like, Julius Caesar, Socrates, and all those other people, they didn't exist then. Since you might as well go along that line, right? Well, they didn't exist. People wrote about Jesus back then, near when he was alive. But they wrote about him. They literally wrote about him. Like, this is a thing that happened. They were dated back then. People wrote about, I believe, maybe if I'm not wrong, I should not be wrong about this, but all the philosophers had people who were students who literally wrote while they're either they went off campus or something, wherever they were learning, and wrote it out there, or they wrote it while they were watching. Either way, they wrote what they learned, what they heard. And it's the same thing. And if we're going to believe those people who wrote what the philosophers said, why are we all going to somehow twist around whatever go around in circles what all the people who wrote in the Bible said? Matthew, Luke, Mark, and John. I think that's out of order. I think it's out of order. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. I think I said Matthew, Luke, Mark, John. Doesn't matter the order. Why do I even act like it didn't matter the order? But either way, just like the order wasn't right. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Yeah. We're like, oh, well then, we don't trust those people though. That's a heart problem. It's a heart problem. Your heart is not in it. It's a heart problem. It's not even a knowledge problem. Because I know, I can see, okay, well, this knowledge lines up. But then what makes me really believe? Past just, oh, well, I know, right? Well, I know this information is there, right? I know the information, okay, well, we have the evidence, blah, 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 this, that. Well, I add on to it, and I've said this before, I add on to it not only the information and the evidence, I add on to it my personal experience. Now, you don't want to rely on that, but when you add it, it can work. No other, literally no other, whatever you can say, religion, book, anything, has ever said anything as close to as good as stuff like Sermon on the Mount. Nothing else. You could talk all the philosophers you want. No. Those are big boy talks that happen there, bro. Those are top talks. Those are one for the books, you know what I'm saying? So you can't just be like, oh well, I don't believe because I don't want to. Well, the evidence is there, we get that. But then at the end of the day, you have to basically say, okay, do I believe in these very good teachings from a really reputable? I don't know the word, whatever. Very trusted, source, from the Dead Sea Scrolls and all that stuff. Don't want to trust that. Don't want to put my faith in that with all the promises and all that. That's good backing. Or do I want to put my faith in I do what I want? It's all up to you. You could always look at, that and say, well, there's evidence there. I don't want to put my faith in it though. It's really just a you problem. It's a heart problem. It's whether you want to put your faith in it. It's whether you truly want that, or do you want your sin, right? So I choose to want that, right? You say, well, why not Muhammad? There's many reasons behind that. But the thing is, I'm not even going to go into that, bro. I'm not even going to go into that, bro. Like, well, why not this one? Why were they different? They are just different. They're different in many ways. I could literally go into depth on how they're different. We're not going to talk about that. That's too long of an argument. Honestly, we've kind of got off the rails. I'm going too much into things. But basically what I'm trying to say is, when I tell people why I believe, they get stumped. Like, what, you don't use emotions? Or you don't go straight off your experience? If I went 100% off of my experience of life, in my emotions, I'll probably believe in zodiac signs, tarot cards, and everything under the sun that happened that keeps like being moved. I'll probably believe, oh, well, all religions are right. I will probably believe that. But it doesn't logically factor and make sense. It doesn't make sense. The logic does not follow. And I think logically and reasonably. So I'm not going to think about that in a way that's not logically and reasonable. I'm not going to rely on my emotions. When you don't rely on your emotions, you can actually come to an understanding. Wait a second. This thing makes sense. Like, well, how do we know? They always go into these weird things. Like, people will say, going into it, well, how do you know? I don't know. I don't know anything. I have no clue at the end of the day I have anything. I only say, here's the evidence. And I say, I think this is the best package of all these moral teachings that I think are the best that I want to ascribe to. And not only that, like I said, the evidence is there. I'm just putting my trust in something. Here's the thing. If you put your trust in someone like Muhammad or any other religion you want to put it into, if you put your trust in them, you have to understand, okay, I put my trust in this person. Here's the things why I put my trust in them. Okay? And I have to understand that my trust in this person, let's say this other thing is true, if my trust in this person is wrong, I'm going to choose this person. I'm basically, if my trust in this person is wrong, this person wins, probably not great for me, right? So, you're basically like betting on the best team. It's not a toss-up. It's not truly a big like gamble. But at the end of the day, you're not going to know until you're dead. So you got to put your trust in something now. And I choose to put my bets and my odds on this one thing over here because I think I have the best odds on this one. You say, well, you're just gambling. Atheists. Hey, atheists. I know this has got off rails. I get it. Atheists out there. Do you really think? Let's really look into it. You're an atheist. You think there's no God or anything, right? Obviously, it doesn't factor in logically. Gotcha. Doesn't factor in logically. So, you think it's a gamble, like a 50-50, right? Like a 50-50 whether there's a God or not. Well, here's the thing. There's very little evidence towards your theory, and there's a bunch towards mine. So who do you think actually has better odds? If I have more evidence on my side, and I have more reasonable thought process, arguments, logical reasoning, if I have all this stuff on my side, and you got really none of that, because you think literally nothing comes from nothing, or no, you think something comes from nothing, if that's really what you think, well then, you can go ahead and do that, but at the end of the day, I think it would be better for you to understand, to come to the understanding that, wait a second, this over here has way more backing it, and has a lot more evidence towards it. Wait a second. This is way more logically sound, morally sound. There's no question that killing is wrong. This has so much good stuff in it over here. And it lines up with everything. Like, it's just what? A sacrifice and all this? That's crazy. You put in that 1% chance that it isn't right. Oh, whoop-de-doo. All I'm telling you is, bro, if you fully put your trust in it, you are putting your trust in the better odds. You're not going to get past the fact that there's a small gamble. Tough. That's the life you will put into. Tough. What you going to do about it? And you thought I was going to refute and say, oh, it's not a gamble. My point wasn't to say it wasn't a gamble. My point was to say it becomes less of a gamble when you realize that you have 80 to 20, right? Or even more, 90, 99. There's high odds on my side. There's high odds on Jesus. There's high trustability within him. Very, very high trustability. But there's not very high trustability in atheist perspectives. So that's really all I'm saying. You have to choose based on the odds. Really, bro. I can't say it any other way, bro. I can't say it any other way. Now, I'm sure there's Christians that would be Christians also that would watch this be like, well, it seems like you're giving them you're kind of like making it, trying to act like it's a gamble or something. Bro, we all have to come to the understanding, though we don't actually know. We all have to, everyone, atheists, Christians, Muslims, everyone. We have to come to the understanding that we don't know. You could say you know all you want, but as most what are they, illusionists, whatever they're called, those people who think that everything's illusion, that we don't know anything, they are only right to a certain extent because technically we don't know, right? So at the end of the day, we just gotta see, right? We just gotta see. We gotta look at the other side and see it, right? So at the end of the day, you're not gonna know until you see it. Now, people will say, "Oh, well, I've talked with God and He said this." We get it. You talked to God and He said this, right? No matter what religion you're from, you say talk to God and He said this, right? You could say, "Well, that's evidence right there." It very well could be. It very well could be evidence. All I'm saying is, look at the evidence. If that is evidence, and you believe that is evidence, then that is evidence. Cool, it's evidence. Now, if it wasn't actually evidence towards it, whoop-de-doo, tough for you. But here's what I'm saying. I'd rather look at the physical evidence that we have, the testimonial evidence that we have, rather than what atheists have as evidence, which is literally just, well, I think. There's no evidence that nothing created something. There's literally no evidence of this. We're like, well, there's no evidence that something created something. It's not about, in that situation, there's not even about evidence for that. But the thing is, that's what you got going on. You're trying to look for evidence there. I didn't say there's evidence there. All I'm saying is look at the logic. Because once we go to logic, we go away from, okay, well, we don't need evidence in that specific place because there obviously isn't evidence right there. But once you think of logic that we've not seen within our world, within this life, nothing creating something. But we have seen something creating something. When you go into that, you think logically, you're like, wait a second. It makes sense that something created something. You think matrix theory. You think all these other theories. Well, what if this, that? If there was a matrix, there would have to be someone who created the matrix, and it can't go infinite. It couldn't go infinite. It would have to end somewhere. Else there would be no true creator there. They said, well, if God's God, who created God? God did. God did. We don't need to ask this question. It literally goes nowhere because there has to be an end. There has to be an end to the top. It has to end somewhere where the created turns into the uncreated, where the non-eternal turns into the eternal. We have to get to that point, and that is going to be God. So once we get to that point, once we understand that there has to be an end, there can't be an infinite, logically sound, there cannot be an infinite, then we understand that, wait a second, it has to end somewhere. There has to be a point where it becomes a non-created being who actually created things, because that's the only way that there would be anything, is to actually create, as in like us, that have to create things. But it's not like he could be created. He, they, them, whatever you, whatever you believe, you know what I'm saying? But it's not like, I'm just going to use he because I'm a Christian, so, I'm just saying. So, it's not like that he can be created, because at a certain point, if he was created, then would he really be God, right? So, that's what I mean. At a certain point, God has to be God. You have to understand that. At a certain point, he has to be eternal. This is just how it has to be. Logically sound. He has to be eternal. He cannot have been created. He cannot have been created because either way, if he's been created, he's not the tip top. He can't have been created. He has to be eternal. He has to know everything. He has to have all power. He has to literally be tip top of everything. He has to literally have all knowledge, all power, everything. And he can't be created. This is logically sound. And when you realize this, there's no singular way, possible way you can truly say, well, nothing created something. You can't say that. You literally cannot. I know this really got into like different stuff, This kind of like swerved around. We suddenly got to this combo. I don't even know what I was talking about, but basically I got to that point. And then once you do that, you're like, wait, okay, so we understand logically sound has to be God. Gotcha. Okay. So when I go into, okay, well then if he created things, he would have to care to create them. If there's good and bad, he would have to care to do that, right? And then we go into morality and different stuff, but like basically it goes on to the arguments of, there's good and bad. He has to be a care to actually who defines it. You know what I mean? There has to be a God to define good and bad, right? Or else there is no good and bad. It's just all relative, right? And then at the end of the day, you look at your experience and say, well, I believe there's good and bad. I believe these are absolutely good and absolutely bad. And then others will say, well, that's just what you believe. I believe differently. Cool. Well, here's the thing. I believe if I like killing, it's wrong, whether I think it's right or wrong. You can say, well, that's what you believe then. That's what I believe. Tough. But I can't get around the fact that you don't believe that. You believe whatever you want. All I'm saying is, that's what I believe. I don't know. I mean, I don't know anything. All I'm using is logic. All I'm using is logic. All right. So when I use logic, it brings me to these answers, and I can't unlogic it and try to be like, well, actually, no. You can't get around it. It's just logic. There is no good and bad without God. Just that simple. There have to be a reason for good and bad. If there's no reason for good and bad, there's no good and bad. So there's a reason for good and bad. That's what I am going to have to say. That's what I'm going to have to say. And just because one person or different people don't agree on what that version of good and bad is, doesn't mean there isn't a good and bad. It doesn't mean that. It just means you don't agree. Tough. So you can believe what you want to believe, but logic is sound. Logic is sound. And the reason I'm saying this isn't to say gotcha. I want to give you a couple reasons why I think the reason I went on to this, and I can go in depth. This goes even deeper than this. I can go in depth of even more stuff that adds to the credibility. But the basic thing I want to say here at the end here is, to wrap it up, I'm actually running out of time on my recording. To wrap it up, I think what I want to add here is trust. That was a different topic, so let me add that one, and then we'll get to the other one. Look at what supports what you believe. Look at what supports what you believe. Look at the evidence. Think logically. That's all I tell you. That's how I'm going to end that one. Think logically. Believe what you want to believe. Do your thing. But I implore you to discover the actual credibility of what Jesus had said, what he had done, what he is doing, everything. I implore you to explore that. Not for, just cause, but for your well-being and the people around you. And of course, you will learn during that process that that's what you want. That's what you want to do. You want to make people happy. It's not some people say, oh, it's just a cult. What's culty about wanting to love people and help them out? Well, loving isn't calling gay people horrible. Okay, well then, what? Who said true Christians were the people who persecuted gay people? Come on, just read the Bible. It never says that. It never says go persecute them. It literally says pray for your enemies, bro. You're literally supposed to pray for them and tell them of the error of their ways. That's why Christians for the ones who at least I consider, and the Bible would also consider, true Christians, the ones that are actually of Christ. They're the type that doesn't really pull out guns on randos or just people that they don't like. Kind of isn't a thing, People can like the ones that a lot of your pastors molest kids. Okay, that doesn't mean that this person is that the whole faith is evil or something just because a couple pastors did a couple bad things. You know what I mean? It's doesn't mean anything, bro. Okay, sure, these guys did something bad. Those are people. They're humans. Men do different stuff. Why do you think wars happen, bro? Oh, all those people. Well, America. For example, America. America did war stuff, so all Americans are bad. Okay, just because the government decided to engage in a war and kill people, doesn't mean that everyone in the country is now bad. it just doesn't fall into that. Like, just because someone engaged in combat, or an army or whatever engaged in combat with someone, or pursued something or whatever it is, doesn't mean that the whole of the people who are behind them, who are, regular people, or even God, doesn't mean that it's somehow reflective of God or reflective of the people that are not engaging. Couple few, that want to engage in evil. You know what I mean? We can go into that another day, like specifically on that type of stuff. But I'm okay on that. Like I said, take what I say with a grain of salt. Do what you want to do. All I'm trying to say here is, basically, look at the evidence and, hey, do your own research, man. It's all up to you. You gotta do it. You gotta do it yourself, bro. Do your own research. But on the topic of moving on, you gotta just move on. Accept that things are gonna happen. You gotta. And that's why I'm not even mad at atheists, bro. I'm not even mad at them. I'm not mad at atheists or other people who believe other faiths, because if you believe other faiths, atheists, all them, I'm not mad at them, because at the end of the day, we all have to do. I like when they're consistent. I prefer if they're consistent with what they believe. But at the end of the day, I think we all are in our journey. There's a time for everything. We all have our part in the journey. And all I would hope is that the people who have their part in the journey end up where it is best to be. Not exactly where they want to be, but where it is best to be. And I don't define the best. Maybe you do. As in, like, you believe that you define what is best. And that's cool. Like I said, believe what you want to believe. But this is just what I believe. That I would like everyone to end up in the best. You see the storyline of a movie. I want the movie for everyone to end up in the best place it can. So that's why I'm not mad. I'm not mad at people who have differing opinions than me or anything like that. Because at the end of the day, all I want is the best for you. So if you're not in the greatest place right now, cool. All I hope is that you get to a better place. That's it. That's all I can really say. I'm not some crazy guru or some extraterrestrial being. Again, you can believe that if you want to. It ain't true to me. And it ain't true in general. I'm going to make that claim. Do what you will with that. I can make whatever claims I want to. And we're all making truth claims. I make mine. You make yours. Choose your side. There are sides to this. Choose your side. Choose your sides. I don't want us to be divided, but naturally we are going to be divided. I want to try to be close to people, so I don't want to try to get rid of my morals or push them to the side, my beliefs, just to be friends with someone. But at the same time, well, not at the same time, but in general, adding on to that, if I have to, I will just, not be friends with them. You know what I mean? It is what it is. And not chill with them and stuff, but I'm never going to hate them. I think I'm getting done with talking now. It was a good convo. I said a lot. I'll have to look back at it. I could have said something wrong. If I did, then tough. Call me out on that. And I'll just ignore your comment. Or I won't ignore your comment. I don't really have too much to say about that. But all I'm doing is saying my stuff. And, I could talk and try to, I kept trying to, get behind what I say and say, oh, well, actually, what if, you could have this argument. It works to a certain extent, but, at the end of the day, I have to say what I have to say. And we all have to put our trust where we put our trust. Put your trust in what you're going to put your trust in. And we'll see what happens at the end. But all I say is, right now, I hope that you put your trust in God. I hope you do. I very well hope you put your trust in God. That's what I hope you do. And that's just from me. That's what I hope you do. Because when you're tough, the situation is tough, it hurts, it's just horrible, I hope you find out the love of God and the true love that can be found outside of this world. Because the love within this world is very fickle. Oftentimes, it really, really is. You're gonna find a lot of pain. So that's all I hope for you. I wish the best for you. I not even wish. I pray the best for you. That's what I want. I want the best for you. I do. And that's just me. That's just me. You can get into the weeds. I can get into the weeds of, well, if you believe, I said it plenty of times. You're going to believe what you're going to believe. I'm going to believe what I'm going to believe. I'm going to make my truth claim. You're going to make your truth claim. Jesus is going to make his truth claim. And, Muhammad's going to make his truth claim. We're all going to make our truth claims. We're all going to say things that we believe. It's up for each of us to decide where we stand. And all I ask is you look at the evidence and you make your own decision. That's all I ask. That being said, I think that was probably the perfect way to say that at the end. And I will end it here. It was interesting. Interesting day. Interesting times we're living in. It's getting tough out here. But we got to push on. And I'm telling you, when times get even tougher, you're going to want to lean on God. I'll say it again because I messed it up. When times get tough, trust me, you are going to want to lean on God. You're going to want to. Open up the Bible. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. I believe that's right. You're going to want to. You're going to want to. When the persecution starts, you're still going to want to. When the beast is running amok, you're going to want to put your trust in God. When the enemy is coming from all angles, you're going to want to put your trust in God. And don't be fooled. They will call evil good and good evil. They will. But when that happens, you're going to, you already know, you're going to want to put your trust in God. That's what I got to say. With that being said, I'm going to go do whatever else I was going to do. Maybe I'll stream, maybe I won't. Doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, I'm a trusting God. Hope you just, that's almost perfect, but happens, you know what I mean? I'm going to say it again. But whatever happens, I'm a trusting God. And I hope you do too. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And I'll see you.